Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm gonna wait for a few more people to get in here. Tamiko, if you can see us and hear us, please comment in this chat. Let me know if you can see us and hear us, since I know you are on. Okay, Krista says hello. That must mean you can hear us. Guys, give me a thumbs up if you can hear us. Let us know. Hi, Larissa. Hey, Krista. Let us know where you're calling in from. Well, not calling in from. I guess this ain't the radio. Let us know where you're watching from. Okay. LJ says, yep, we're in there. So cool. Wonderful. Hey, Joy. Oh, hey, Joyce. You guys, she just sent us one of the greatest messages recently. And I'm so grateful that she was able to. Kimaya. Hey. Hey y'all. Oh, I'm so happy to see everybody in here. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, we got Atlanta in the house. I'm calling in. Well, I'm watching from Vienna. Larissa's Kobe, you got a lot of people from Atlanta.
Hey, ATL.
I love it so much. I love it so much. All right, y'all, we're getting ready to get started. I'm gonna turn this music down before I get started. So, hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. And welcome to How to Get to Your Bag with Colby. No, I'm just playing. How to Fix the Brands with Colby Holiday. As you all know, or some of you might know, Colby is a co-founder for the BTA. We had her for the past 2 years. She was the brains. Ooh, watching from Ecuador. Yes. She was the brains behind social media page. As you guys know, it was fantastic. It was wonderful. She also was part of multiple committees, and we are so grateful that we can have her here today. She's going to help us all get to our bag. I'm not even going to talk to y'all anymore after this, but I will tell you guys this. If you are looking for this replay, it will come straight to your inbox, as well as the one from Friday, which was how to pitch to Condé Nast. So just hold tight. It'll be uploaded to our YouTube, but the email will also be sent to you. And without further ado, I'm going to sign off of here. I'm going to be in the comments. Colby, thank you so much. We're so happy to have you. You can take it away.
All right. All right. Hello, 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 everyone. Again, Colby Holiday, as Marty mentioned. I was formerly part of BTA, one of the co-founders, also was a social media manager for No Madness Tribe, if you're familiar with them. I've worn a lot of different hats over the past few years, but most recently, I am a travel writer and content creator. And so that's kind of been my journey. I'm gonna actually go ahead and start sharing my screen and get into this presentation because I know we don't have a long time. Give me 1 second. All right. So let's go. Give me 1 second, y'all. All right. Let's just get this up and going. Let's see. 1 second. You know, it wouldn't be right if it wasn't a little hiccup sharing a screen. So, all right. Enter full screen. Where's my presentation? Hold on. Let's just go out and try again. All right, here we go. How to pitch brands. So if you've joined us, and we did this a couple years ago where we talked about pitching brands and DMOs. First of all, can everyone see the screen? Let me know in the comments, in the chat. Hold on 1 second. All right, I'm just gonna keep it moving. I think we can see. All right. So if you caught the one that we did previously, we talked about pitching brands and DMOs. And so this is going to be specifically talking about how to pitch brands and how to get to the bag, basically, as Marty said. So your takeaways here are going to be steps to take before pitching, how to find brands to pitch, the 5 W's of pitching, the makings of a great pitch, and how to pitch for pay. And so just a little bit about me, I know Marty gave a dope introduction, but for me, I'm an HR professional turned lifestyle photographer, travel blogger, freelancer, partnerships consultant for a travel brand, and throw in a language teacher somewhere along the way. So I taught in South Korea and Spain. And so basically, I've done a little bit of everything in a nutshell. And now I'm just a creative entrepreneur, like I mentioned earlier. I'm a travel writer and content creator. I've been doing this. Let's get to my journey. Since January 2016, this is when I launched World of a Wanderer, which is my travel blog and brand these days. So I launched it in 2016. I was teaching in South Korea. And basically, I needed something to keep my sanity. I was in a very rural part of South Korea and I had nothing to do. There was no entertainment. I was the only foreigner in the small, tiny town. And so blogging and content creation is what helped keep my sanity, basically. And so fast forward to August 2016, I made my first pitch ever to Skyroam. I had around 1,500 to 1,700 followers on Instagram. So as you can see, I did not have a lot of followers starting out on this journey. And what really, well, let's go to December 2016. I took a 2-week trip around the Balkans. That's like Eastern Europe. And I only had to pay out of pocket for 2 nights at an Airbnb. That was the only thing I had to pay for. Everything else was basically covered. All of my hotels, the activities, pretty much everything, thanks to collaboration. So even though I still only had around 1,500 to 1,700 followers, I was able to pitch different destinations and hotels to get everything covered. My goal, because I was teaching in Spain at the time, and I was making like 852 euro a month. So I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was struggling. Like, it was wonderful. I was living in Madrid. It was amazing. One of my favorite places on earth. Like, all the things, but the pay was terrible. Like, it was terrible. And I couldn't live how I wanted to live. I couldn't move how I wanted to move because I made 852 euro a month. And so I tried to figure out a way, what is the best way that I can minimize my travel expenses and maximize my experiences? And so that's when I really got into content creation and pitching brands and destinations, even though I only had a small following. And so present day, I now have around 20,000 followers on Instagram and have collaborated with 50 plus brands, both paid and unpaid. So I'll get into that a little bit about the paid and unpaid portion a little bit later. All right. So these are some of the partnerships and collaborations I've had over the years. So Magical Kenya, Google, Expedia, Viator, Intrepid, Get Your Guy, like all of these are different brands that I've had the pleasure of working with. And again, some of these partnerships were paid, some of them were unpaid, but like I said, we'll get into it a little bit later about knowing what you're okay with accepting. And everything for me, everything does not have to be paid. For example, when I worked with Magical Kenya, it was on a 9-day luxury safari press trip. This is a trip that costs tens and thousands of dollars. And I had to pay for nothing, zero, out of pocket, because it was a press trip that I was a part of. And so although it was not paid, that was like a once in a lifetime experience that I may not have been able to experience any other way. And so, like I said, you have to determine what you're willing to accept and what is okay for you to accept. All right. So let's get into what to do before you start pitching brands. Because I know you just want to jump in and just start pitching, and you don't want to do that. You want to have kind of a plan to go with this thing. So the first thing I would say that you would need to do is to shift your mindset. If you're thinking about collaborating and partnering with brands, you want to shift your mindset from this being a hobby, just randomly posting on Instagram whenever you feel like it, to this actually being your business. Like, this is your business, this is your brand, and you have to treat it as such. And so when you have to have your affairs in order, you need to have a media kit, you need to have your rate sheet in case they ask what your prices are, which eventually they'll get to that point where they're asking, what are your rates for XYZ? Um, so you have to start thinking about you posting on Instagram as a business, or you posting on YouTube, or you writing articles or offering consultation, like whatever it is. You have to switch your mindset from it being a hobby or it's just, all willy-nilly to this is actually your business. Um, the second part, you need to know thyself and know thy audience. Be crystal clear about your brand and your audience. This will help you leverage while you're pitching or during your pitch. If you know what your brand is about and you know who your audience is. And this kind of ties in with alignment as well. And being in alignment with the brands that you're reaching out to or the brands that you're working with. Because you could work with the brands. Say your brand is all about luxury experiences. So you wouldn't want to pitch like staying at hostels or, budget travel, because that's not necessarily your brand. You want to cater to the luxury people. Or on the reverse side of that, if you are focused on budget travel, then you need to be aware of your audience and what they're looking for, so that when you do have these brand partnerships, that your audience can relate to the content. They'll be engaged with the content. They'll want to know more. They'll want to purchase this product, or they'll want to, go support this brand. So it's something that know thyself and know thy audience. Again, this is something that you'll leverage during your pitches. All right. So you also, before you start pitching, you want to have a sustainable and consistent posting schedule. So if you're one of the people who post every blue moon when the mood strikes on Instagram, you show up in your stories every now and then, you might want to consider having a more consistent schedule when you're thinking about approaching brands, because they're going to look at your page and be like, well, she hasn't posted since September 2021. Like, why would we work with her? And she doesn't even post. So be cognizant of how often you're posting. Consistency, again, it doesn't mean posting every single day. It can be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It could be once a week. But as long as your audience, like you still have that engaged audience, you're going to need that when it comes to working with these brands. Another point, do your research. So think of a unique way to tell the brand story. You want to research the brand that you're pitching, or research some brands that you want to work with, and learn about them. What is their ethos? What are their values? What is their mission? How are they showing up in the community? Is there some alignment there that, it'll work with your brand? One of the things that I love to do, I always research the brand's mission and try to tie that in some kind of way in my pitches. So, I see you support, you're very heavy in the LGBTQ community, like you're an ally, and I see you post this type of content. I love that. That resonates with me and my audience, and blah, blah, blah. So do your research, find out what the brand is about, so you can kind of tie that into your pitches as well. And last, what to do before start pitching is to engage with the brand, tag them in organic content. So if this is a brand that you're using in your everyday life anyway, then, tag them in your stories, or, you don't have to necessarily go out and go create a whole campaign around a brand just because you want to get their attention. But no, if you're using them in everyday life, I love Dunkin' Donuts. So when I stop by Dunkin' sometime, I'll tag them in my stories. But it has to be organic. And then some people would be like, well, you don't want to give away free advertising. It's not necessarily the case, because here's the thing. Brands cannot use your content unless you give them permission. You'll get those DM, like you tag a brand and they'll send you that DM. Oh, we'd love to feature or reshare your content on our social pages. That's all fine and dandy, but be sure to read the terms and conditions, because it can be some stuff in there that you're not aware of, and you give them permission to share on their page. And then next thing you know, you're on a billboard somewhere in somebody's city and have no idea. And they're making all this money off of you and your likeness, and you have nothing to show for it. So be sure to read the terms and conditions. And if you're not okay with it, then you can go back to the brand and be like, how can we work together? Like, how can we make this a mutually beneficial collaboration? And so that's how you can kind of spark up a conversation to kind of get in good with the brand. All right. And I want to, because I can't really see the screen right now, Marty, let's see. I want to see if there are any comments or anything that's happening. or if we have any questions. I want this to be interactive. So if there are any questions, definitely feel free to shoot them over and I can answer those as we go. I'm going to stop sharing really quickly so I can see if I can get both screens on the page here. Let's see. All right. Marty, let's see. Maybe if I just move this over here, give me 1 second, y'all, because I want to be sure I can answer questions as we go and not just keep talking and not answer any questions. All right, let's try this. All right. There we go. I got a 2-screen situation happening here. And so now I can see. So if you see me looking over here, I'm just looking at the comments to see if we have any questions. All right. So one of the main questions we get, or I have a small following, when should I start pitching? So I would say to this, as I mentioned before, I think you should start pitching when you're consistently posting. Because one thing about working with these brands, like it sounds fun and all fine and dandy, but then you start actually getting into the thick of working with brands and they're sending you briefs that are like 10 pages long with all the do's and don'ts and the key language and all the things. You're like, wait a minute, what is all this stuff? I just wanted to take a cute picture, shoot a quick reel and post it and be done with it. But it is so much more that goes into it than just posting photos. And so I think when you start posting consistently, you have a good schedule down, then I think you should consider. If you have a small following, that's fine. Like I said, I started pitching when I had 1,500 to 1,700 followers when I first started pitching brands, which was fine. But if you have something else to leverage other than just content creation or Instagram or wherever your audience is, then leverage that. One of the main things that I was able to leverage when I first started pitching was photography services. So no, I didn't have a large following on Instagram, but I did have a camera and I was pretty good with taking photos. And so I would offer to send the brand photos for their marketing usage. And brands could use this, especially if they're lacking people of color on their website. So you can send this, use that as leverage and say, you know what, I can offer you XYZ. I can offer 1 Instagram post, 3 stories, and 5 to 10 images for your marketing usage. So find something else that you can leverage if your numbers aren't that great or aren't that big on social media. And so yeah, that's finding something else you can leverage when you have a consistent schedule. Are 2 of the things I should say that you should take into consideration before you start pitching if you have a small following, or even if you have a blog. I know my blog was doing really well back in the day. I had, tons of viewers per month. So I also leveraged my blog when my numbers weren't that big. So just find anything else that you can leverage if your numbers aren't that big. All right. I'm looking at some of the questions over here. What is an example of an initial pitch to a brand? How do you determine what is an appropriate rate to propose? Leslie, love that question. I'm actually going to share like some snippets of my pitches that I've sent out later on in the presentation. So you'll see like some of the actual things that I've sent in my pitches. And I'll talk about rates as well. Let's see. Do you find more tertiary markets are open to collabs with bloggers, writers with small following, or are first-tier cities open to micro-influencers as well? I think that both. I find that larger cities are more apt to work with bloggers and influencers because it's a big city and they have likely already worked with bloggers and influencers. I find that when it's like the smaller cities or the smaller towns, they haven't really gotten into influencer marketing. So they're still trying to figure it out. They're still trying to understand how it all works and how it can behoove them to work with influencers. So I think with the larger cities, it's a greater chance because they already understand how it works. They probably have a PR firm that's running their stuff that knows exactly how it works. Let's see. Robin asked, do you think that having a blog or website is necessary if you want to work with brands? No, If you don't have a blog, I wouldn't say go run out and start one now if you don't have one. I know people who do solely, content creation for social media. That's totally fine. I know people who solely sell like photos and videos. I know people who offer copywriting services. That's another way that you can work with brands, through copywriting or offering content or articles for their websites and their blogs. I've written for different, websites and different brands and their actual blogs, and it never showed up on my blog. So if you're not that great behind the camera, if you don't have like a huge following on social media, then think of another way. Like maybe you're good at writing, so you can offer some writing services. So there's several different ways that you can kind of work with brands. All right. So if someone doesn't know what a press or fam trip is, can you please explain? That's from Marty. That is a really good question, because I think so many people get press trips and fam trips confused. So press trips are usually for media purposes. I know press trip is used interchangeably in the content creation world. But as someone who has done journalism work and works as a content creator, they're actually two different things. So a press trip is usually a trip that you are hired to go to cover it for media purposes. So you are hired to come out to that destination. Well, you're selected to come out to a destination to cover that, and you're providing like writing for a publication. So for example, the Kenya trip that I did, that was a press trip. I had no obligation whatsoever to create any type of social media content. That was not what I was there for. I was there simply to write for a publication. Also on press trips is not usually the destination that pays you, is whatever publication you're writing for. That's who's going to pay you for a press trip. Now, a sponsored trip, which is what most content creators do, sponsored trips is when you are paid to come out to go to a destination and cover their service or cover their destination or cover a brand, cover a hotel, cover an experience, whatever it is. You're paid to come out to do that. And a lot of times it doesn't require you to actually write a blog post. If that's in your deliverables, then that's fine. But when it comes to press trips and press trips and sponsored trips, there is a difference between the two. And press trip and fam trips are kind of synonymous. Fam means like a familiarity trip, short for fam. So that's kind of the difference between a press trip and a sponsored trip. I hope I kind of answered that in a long roundabout way. All right. So next, how to find brands to pitch. So this first point is like the old school, like OG way to find brands to work with. So you simply Google the destination or a hotel plus all opinions are my own, because bloggers, writers, content creators, they all put this like on their blog posts, all opinions are my own. If it's like hosted or if they're paid for it, you'll find this. So when you Google it, say I'm going to Dallas next week and I want to work with a Dallas hotel, I would Google said hotel plus all opinions are my own, or I would simply Google Dallas hotel plus all opinions are my own and see what comes up, because that shows me what bloggers or what content creators have already worked with brands in that destination or worked with that destination. My favorite way to find brands to work with is Instagram. I have a specific folder on Instagram that I have labeled pitch prospects. And basically, as I'm scrolling through my timeline, if I see another content creator or if I see an influencer, if they work with a brand that I feel like it's an alignment, or, oh, that's a brand I'd like to work with, or, anything. If I want to work with that brand, then I'm going to save that brand in that folder and then come back to it, whenever I'm sending out my pitches. So that's a great way. And another way to piggyback on that, when you're saving these brands, look at who's posting this content. Because for me, if I'm saving something from an Instagrammer who has like 200,000 followers, I know good and well they're not doing this stuff for free. And so that brand is paying them. And so I know if they're paying them, they're more likely to pay me as well. So that's kind of one of the things I look at with people in my niche, which is travel, obviously. Another good way to find brands to pitch are Facebook groups. I use Facebook more for the groups and the resources than I do for actually family and friends. There are tons of great groups that you can join and communities. There's actually a resource page or a resource that Marty, she's going to drop the link for it. And I have some of my favorite community groups that I like to use to determine like brands I want to pitch or to kind of scope out and see how much people are charging or what their rates are. Another way to find ways to pitch, think about what you need or simply look around your house and see something that you use all the time and you want to work with that brand because you genuinely love the product. And pitch for it. Create a spreadsheet and keep track. I have like a whole color-coded spreadsheet that I keep track of all the brands that I pitch and the outcome of it, the contact information, everything. Another co-founder, Paxlight, Gabby from Paxlight, she also has a pitch tracker that you can purchase. And hers is definitely more interactive and it's all fancy. Mine is very simple, but that's also on the resource list that you can check out as well, Gabby from Paxlight. Another way to find brands to pitch is a website called FU Pay Me, is short for FYPM. This is a great resource. It shows it's anonymous. So people post, it's kind of like, it's anonymous. So you don't know who's posting this information, but they post the brands that they work with, their experience. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it indifferent? How much they were paid for the campaign. And they basically give like a short review of what it was like to work with said brand. Like, oh, the brand paid on time, or, oh, I had to chase this brand down for my money, or, oh, it was a wonderful experience. Would work with them again. So this is a great resource to utilize to just kind of gauge what to charge for your services. And another way is conferences. Definitely be sure to get out there and network and go to as many conferences as you can. This is a great way to not only connect with other content creators and seeing what they're doing, what they're up to, people they work with, but also connect with brands and destinations that may not have even been on your radar. I know that BTA in the newsletter, they often have the conferences that are coming up. So if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, definitely make sure that you are subscribed so you can get that information and start going to some of these conferences and making those connections, because connections are so important in this field in content creation and influencing. All right. Let's see if we have any other questions so far. All right, let's keep going. All right, so the 5 W's of pitching. The why, what, who, when. Who should you, is FYPM a website? Yes, it is. Is FYPM.VIP. That's the website address. Let's see, who you should be pitching, what should be in your pitch, when you should be pitching, where to find contacts, and why do you want to work with this brand? All right. So who you should be pitching, like I mentioned before, a lot of time brands use PR companies or public relation companies to kind of handle everything for them. They're hands off. They send it all to PR companies. So if you're pitching a brand directly, they may refer you over to the PR company, or just a quick search on Google to look and see if they are actually using a PR company. Just Google the brand and type in PR company or media contact. Influencer agencies. A lot of the campaigns that I have worked with, the brands that I've worked with, have come through influencer agencies. So brands use influencer agencies for their campaigns. You basically have an influencer agency manager who kind of handles the whole thing. These are people that send you over the briefs, the information, sign the contracts through them. Everything is done through the agency. Also on that resource list, I have some of my favorite agencies that I've worked with that actually pays influencers. And I've worked with them, a few times. So I know that they're good and solid. One of them is Quotient. They highly believe they do not do unpaid campaigns at all. So Quotient is probably my favorite of them. Social Fabric is another one that is really great. Soapbox, I can't remember if it's another name to it, but I know Soapbox something is on the list. They're also great. Sway is another great agency. All of them are on that list. So be sure to sign up for these influencer agencies. And, you know, the competition is a little tougher there because you have a ton of people like applying to these campaigns. So, you know, the competition is tougher, but, you know, create great content, submit a great pitch, and, you know, you have a greater chance of being selected. And then also finding the correct person within the brand. It's so important to find the right person to send your pitch to so it doesn't get lost in the black hole of the interwebs. So you want to find the marketing director, the director of communications, the PR manager, the influencer manager. Any of these people, if push comes to shove and you have to send it to like a generic info at XYZ or press at XYZ, then, you know, so be it. But if you can, really try to find the correct contact person for the brand. And how do you find these people? So one of the top ways, you just simply go to the company website. A lot of times they'll have their team on there. You look and see who's in charge of marketing, pitch that person. There's a Google Chrome extension that I love. I live by, I use it every single day when I'm looking up people to pitch. It's called Hunter.io. And you basically, you go to a company's website page, or if they're mentioned on somewhere else, you click on the little extension at the top. It's Google. I don't know if it's available on other like Safari or anything else, but I know for Google Chrome, you just click on it and it'll bring up a list of all the email addresses. Sometimes it's hit or miss. You kind of got to sift through it and do a little bit of research to kind of find the correct person. But Hunter.io is a great extension to use to find, to find the contact information for people. Another way to find the contact is press releases on sites like PR Newswire. So press releases, the person usually writing the press release is either the PR company or the marketing person. So checking out PR Newswire, I think it's prnewswire.com, and just Googling the brand or the destination and seeing if they have any recent press releases. And at the very bottom, it usually has the contact person. LinkedIn is also great for finding the contact. I literally go on there and search the brand and type in influencers. So if I want to work with, I don't know, Dell, I'll type in Dell influencer, and then I'll search people and I'll see who in that company works with influencer marketing or whatever it is, and then try to find the contact email for them that way. Another quick way is Google the brand plus PR company or marketing contact. And a way that many people probably don't think about is TripAdvisor, because you get on TripAdvisor, people leave their reviews, whether they're good or bad. And then, especially like hotels or something, like the hotel manager will pop on and thank them or say whatever they could have done better. Check TripAdvisor to see, you know, who's responding to the comments on TripAdvisor, and then go from there. And another way, because all of this takes a whole lot of time, we don't have a lot of these days. I don't have a lot of these days. So sitting here searching for hours trying to find a contact, it's too much. So I personally, these days, I use Fiverr to hire somebody to do lead generation for me. So I put the names of the companies, the brands, the destinations on my spreadsheet, and I send it over to a person on Fiverr. It's like $7 to $10. And I think I get like 30 contacts at a time, and they do everything for you. Now, again, it's hit or miss, because sometimes they'll send you like an AOL email address and be like, really, sir and or ma'am, like AOL, this is not it. So it's hit or miss, but it saves you a ton of time versus you sitting there trying to find the correct person yourself. So Fiverr, for sure, use them for lead generation. All right. So I found my contact. Now, what do I say in my pitch? So this is the nitty gritty, the meat and potatoes of why we're all here. Like, how do I pitch? What do I say? How do I get these coins from my pitches? So first, you're going to start off with who you are. Short intro about yourself, 2 sentences max. It doesn't need to be long or drawn out. Just keep it simple. Your why. Why do you want to work with this brand? Are they in alignment with your brand? Is it something that you use every day and you love the product? Is it something you heard about and you want to try it out? Just talk about your why. Why them? Why that brand? And then talk about what you bring to the table. You know, it's a privilege. One thing that I want content creators to understand, that you have a seat at this table as well. And these partnerships and collaborations, these are mutually benefited collaborations. It's not just one-sided and the brand's getting something from you. You should be getting something out of this as well, whatever that is, whether it's money, whether it's experience, whether it's product that you want, like whatever it is, it should be mutually beneficial. And so you have a say in this collaboration, everything from the negotiation to everything. You have a say in it. And so know your value, know your audience, and talk about what you bring to the table. Keep it brief though. Your dates. For me, I don't like a lot of back and forth. I'm not going to try to send like 10 emails trying to figure all these things out. I'm going to give you as much information as possible up front. So you have all the information and we can go from there. So if you have specific dates, mention that in your pitch. If your dates are flexible, also mention that in your pitch. And then a lot of times they'll come back because it cuts out all the back and forth communication like, oh, so what dates are you going to be here? So if it's a hotel that you're pitching and they don't have availability, they'll come back immediately and say, oh, we'd love to work together, but unfortunately we don't have availability for these dates, but we could do these dates instead. So it kind of cuts out, again, all the back and forth. Where you plan to post the content. So is it going to be on your blog? Is it going to be social media, YouTube? And one thing to really think about when you're working with brands is how can you best serve them? Because at the end, it's a mutually beneficial thing. But when you're sending these pitches, you want to make the brand feel good. You want to court them and be like, why you want to work with them and what you can do for them, what value you bring to this brand. And so think about how your content can best serve them. So for example, I used to work for a travel insurance company. I was the influencer manager there. And with something like travel insurance, is not something that people just are going to jump on and buy immediately. They see a post on Instagram, like, ooh, that's a sexy little thing. Let me go add that to my cart. No, there's nothing sexy about insurance. And a lot of times people need to research and learn more about it. So Instagram, maybe not the best platform to sell, travel insurance. Instead, it would do better on an evergreen blog post, something that's going to be around for a while, something that a customer can go back and read again, or read and compare this insurance company to this insurance company. So when you're working with these brands, think about the content and think about how you can where would that content best fit? Would it be better as a YouTube video where you're doing like a full-length review, or would it be better as like a short story, something if you're working with a fashion brand? Instagram obviously is the best thing because you just click the link, add to cart, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. But, again, think about how you can best serve them. And then last, social proof. If you've had some followers or friends purchase something, take a trip somewhere, or try something because of you, take screenshots of that and add that to your pitch for a little razzle dazzle. The whole point of content creation and influences is to show that you have influence. Like the brands need to see that they're going to get some type of ROI. They're going to get something in return from working with you and not just a cute photo. So if you have that social proof, add that in your pitch. I do it all the time. All right. Let's see. Do we have any questions? Fiverr is genius. Yes, it is. I love Fiverr. I would not be able to survive without them because from everything from managing my blog, updating my templates, everything, Fiverr is the way to go. All right. So now we're going to get into pitches, like what to actually include in the pitches. So first, you want to have an attention-grabbing intro. Brands get tons of pitches every day, and they're likely saying the same thing. So you want to make your pitch stand out from the crowd. So this was a pitch that I sent earlier this year, probably around summertime. Houston Astros versus Atlanta Braves, World Series 2021, a house divided. For a week straight, I had my partner address me as my queen, who reigns from the World Series winning city of Atlanta. We're headed back to my beloved city of Atlanta, and what better way to rub it in just a little bit deeper, I kid, only partly, than an epic weekend staycation at XYZ at the Battery overlooking Truist Park, the home of the Braves. So that's how I started that pitch off. I said, hi, whatever her name was, and then got right into it. And so This was an attention grabbing pitch. It wasn't like boring. It caught their attention. It told a story. And it probably was different than some of the other pitches that they're used to receiving. So I would say show your personality in your pitches. There are people on the other side of the screen. Add in an emoji, add in, like, send it as you're talking to your friend. And not just like so professional and stuffy. I mean, keep it professional, obviously, but you can have a little personality to it, as you can see here. All right. So more makings of a great pitch. This is a different brand, different time, but this was all part of a pitch. As a traveler, I'm always looking for the best and most fuel efficient ways to get around. I recently discovered XYZ brand gets 32 miles per gallon combined, which is amazing. This would be the perfect vehicle for the road warriors and the weekend wanderers. My audience is comprised of budget conscious yet travel savvy readers who love brands that make the travel experience affordable. So with this little snippet, this tells the brand that it tells them about my type of audience. So these people are budget conscious yet travel savvy. Like, they're looking for the best way to get around, the best way to live their best travel lives without breaking the bank, basically. And that's how I feel like this aligns with my brand. This brand aligns with my audience. It shows that I did my research on the brand. I talked specifics about the type of products that they're offering. This truck gets 32 miles per gallon combined. And it shows why the brand is a perfect fit for my audience. So again, knowing your audience, knowing your brand, knowing who you're talking to when you're interacting with your audience is so important, because when you're pitching brands, you can tie it all in. Then this shows you here how you can tie it all in. All right, let's see. Any tips on increasing followers? It is, listen, these days, it is not as easy as it used to be when it comes to increasing followers. I really think being consistent is probably the number one thing I can say, because I notice that when I'm consistently posting, multiple times a week, my audience stays engaged. They stay, I stay top of mind for them, and they're constantly engaging. Just recently, I didn't post for like a week, and I came back to post some. It was actually a sponsored post that I posted, and it did so bad. And it's because I'm no longer top of mind. Like, I was away too long, and now, Instagram isn't showing my stuff anymore. So truly, consistency is the key. I know everybody says it, but that is the top thing I would say, is to remain consistent. And then knowing your audience and knowing what they're looking for. If they're asking you questions in the comments, take that question that they're asking you and make a whole post about it. So finding ways to repurpose your content and, answer or provide the content that your audience is looking for. Do most travel brands prefer one social media platform or over another? I don't know if they prefer. I really think it depends on the brand, and it depends on the campaign, like what they're looking to get out of that campaign. If it's like something seasonal, then they're probably going to prefer like Instagram. If it's something that they want evergreen to be around for a long time, a long term, blogs would probably be better. TikTok, we all know that TikTok is taking over, is the new thing, and more brands are getting more apt to working with content creators on TikTok. So it just depends, from what I've seen, on the type of campaigns that brands are running. I love the storytelling in your pitches. Thank you so much. This is some really good stuff. So grateful. So welcome. I'm so glad that this is helpful. All right. More the makings of a great pitch. Storytelling. So someone mentioned the storytelling in my pitches. I always try to weave in some sort of story into my pitches. This one was a holiday pitch that I sent. I actually think it was along with the last snippet that I sent in. So it says, one of my favorite holiday traditions is driving around with my grandmother to see all the beautiful holiday lights. It's a tradition we haven't been able to do for the last few years as I've been in other countries. This year, I would like to restart that tradition and take XYZ along for the ride and encourage readers to create new traditions as well, whether it's driving around admiring holiday lights, going to pick out or cut down a Christmas tree, going on an ice skating adventure, etc. No matter the tradition, XYZ can help make the journey more efficient and comfortable. So again, this tells the brand my what. So this is my story angle, like always trying to think of a story or a unique angle that you can pitch in your pitch. One thing, if you caught the webinar from last week with how to pitch Condé Nast, she had an excellent example about Las Vegas. Everybody has done Vegas. Everybody has talked about Vegas. Everybody has wrote about Vegas. There's nothing new about Las Vegas unless there's some new stuff rolling out. But she had an example where she received a pitch where people or the person pitched them on the best restaurants that chefs are eating at. And so, people pitch all the time, oh, the 10 best restaurants in XYZ. But instead, they're looking at it from a different perspective and getting to know the locals and getting to know the chefs, the people that are preparing some of the best food in the city. Where are they actually eating at? So if you didn't catch that webinar from last week, definitely check out the replay of that, because she gave some really, really great tips as well on pitching. And so, like I said, to piggyback, and always have a story, always have a unique angle, something different, something that even if it's been said before, a different way to say it or to cover that brand or that destination. This also personalizes my pitches. Y'all, people love grandmothers. They love my granny. I've used her in so many pitches, it's not even real. And they love her and they love it. And I'm going to keep using her because it gets a yes. So I find a way to weave in my personal stories. There was another brand that I pitched when I first started pitching, was like a wine luggage brand. And my grandmother, she kept talking about a bottle of Moscato that I brought her from wine. It was like $1 a bottle. And I don't even know, it was like from the grocery store down the street. But she talked to me. She asked me about that wine for like 5 years straight. And so I pitched this brand. I was like, listen, I'm in Spain again, and I want to bring home my grandmother not just one bottle of Moscato, but 12 bottles, so she can, hopefully find that flavor that she got before when I brought her that one bottle. And they said, yes, they were like, I would love for your grandmother to have an array of wines, and we would love to send you this wine luggage. So make your story personable. If you got to use your grandma to get the yes, listen, do what you got to do. So, and then paint a picture for the brand. This showed them how I was going to utilize their vehicle. Like if we're going to cut down a tree, this is great for the back of the truck. We can throw the ice skates on there, whatever it is. Paint the picture for the brand so they don't have to try to imagine how it is that you can tell their story. You're already painting the picture for them. All right. Let's see. What's a good subject line for the pitch email? Robin, so glad you asked, because that's coming up as well. Stay tuned. Social proof. So this is the social proof that I was talking about earlier. If you have somebody, a follower or a friend, anybody that has said that they've used something, or if they've purchased something, or if they've visited a destination or whatever it is because of you, take a snapshot of it and add that into your pitch. So this person, she talked about my Southeast Asia trip back in 2019. She visited a lot of places I recommended, stayed in some places, blah, 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 blah. So if you have social proof, use that. Even if one of the things I used to include in my pitches is a blog post that I had that ranked #1 on Google. And so I use that as my social proof. Like people are searching for this stuff. People are wanting this information. As you can see here on this blog post that ranks #1 on Google, or as you can see here on this blog post that has been shared over 30,000 times. So whatever it is that you can use to show that you have influence or people are seeking what it is that you're putting out, use that to kind of give yourself that extra boost. All right. Also, in your pitches, you want to include your media kit. I used to be iffy about this when I had smaller numbers. Sometimes I would send it, sometimes I didn't. A lot of times I didn't when I had smaller numbers, but I would always have it on standby. If you don't have a media kit, be sure to create one. You can get a template off of Canva, Creative Market, Etsy. Those are kind of the top 3 places that I use for all of my templates. This is the very first media kit that I ever created. This is not the one that I use today. But this is you just need a 1 or 2 pager to tell about your stats. If you don't have a high number of following, you can always use your engagement rate. If you have a really high engagement rate, use that instead. Talk about your demographics, talk about what you offer. And then if you've written for other publications or if you've had other collaborations, be sure to add that on there as well. All right. And this is one line that you should include in every single pitch. It's a call to action. So every pitch I send out, I add this little PS at the bottom. It says, if this email is not directed to the appropriate person, it would be greatly appreciated if you could point me in the direction of who it should be sent to. Many thanks. This is kind of to alleviate, again, your email going into a black hole. Because if you send an email to a person who's not the right person, they got a gazillion emails in their inbox. They're like, oh, this isn't for me, whatever. However, if you add that little call to action, it's not guaranteed that they'll forward it to the right person, but a lot of times they do. Most of my, I'm not gonna say most, a lot of my pitches, the person that I pitch is not the person that responds to me. They're like, oh, such and such sent this my way, or oh, such and such forwarded this to me. And I attribute it to my call to action for them to forward it to the right person. So be sure to include this in your pitches, that call to action. All right, what is the best subject line? Robin, this one is for you and for everyone else, obviously. Well, let's go back a bit. So I used to use these fancy dancy like subject lines and try to be real creative and all the things. It was like, I don't know, they were off the wall, y'all. But the best pitch or the best subject line that I have found working from both the influencer side and the brand side, because I worked on the brand side as well, is simple. You write partnership, your brand, you can be partnership or collaboration or pitch, whatever it is. And then your brand X their brand. So simple, to the point, nothing fancy dancy, just get straight to the point of what it is. This is the best subject line, thus far that I've used. All right. We are coming up on time, so I'm going to try to get through the rest of this quickly so we can get to any other questions that we have. How do I pitch for pay? How much should I charge? So when you're first starting out, it may be a little difficult to ask for money, especially if you have a small following. You're like, should this brand, am I worth it? I don't know if I'm providing enough value because I only have 1,500 followers. What should I do? However, you can start pitching for pay at any time. And one way that I found to make it much easier to pitch for pay, I'll get to that, is I let it be known in the initial email if this is a brand partnership that I'm looking for that is paid. So I usually include a snippet that says, if this is something that is, if interests you and the team, I have a couple of different options available that may be in alignment with your budget. So this lets them know that I'm not out here for the freebies. I don't want free product in exchange for anything. This is, I want to be paid or compensated for the services that I am providing. And so I create from my spreadsheet. This is not it. This is just kind of an example. I always offer package options. So create 2 to 3 different options for the brand for them to choose from. You have your basic option, just Instagram posts, 2 stories, and the cost is XYZ plus the product, the hotel, the experience, whatever it is that you're seeking out of this collaboration. Then option B, you can do also, to go along with this, try to pitch for long-term partnerships instead of just one-offs. And so these package options kind of helps with that as well. So you have just the one-off, which is option A, or you can do option B, which is a 3-month campaign, or you can do option C, which is a 6-month campaign. So you kind of build those long-term relationships with the brands instead of just having those one-off kind of situations. I really like this method versus, again, the one-off situations. All right. Let's see. Kamaya just said, I just did a pitch and I was told that my follower count wasn't high, but that engagement saved me. So glad I included it in my media kit. It helps. It definitely does. Engagement is so much more important than followers. There's some brands that still don't get it and they still want people to have a gazillion followers. But that engagement is really what brands are looking at these days. How many people are commenting? How many people are sharing your post? How many people are saving it? That's more important than actual follower count. So if you got high engagement, be sure to add that in your media kit for sure. What do you use to keep track of your stats? So is this for engagement rates and things? I'm not sure, Wendy. But I know that I use Planoly. The paid version of Planoly is an app, and it's also a website version that you can use. and they calculate everything for me. So it shows you can do like the last 7 days, the last 30 days, the last 90 days, whatever it is. And they kind of calculate, they show your best posts, your top posts, top performing posts. They break down your engagement rate, your impressions, your all the things. So that's what I use to kind of gauge my engagement, because I don't want to sit and calculate it myself. So Planoly is the top thing that I use. All right. How do you calculate engagement? I kind of just answered that, Robin. How do you increase your engagement? Geneva, again, it's that consistency, and it's also engaging with your audience and not just posting and ghosting. Like you post something and then you never, your people comment and all things of the sort, and then you never reply back. And so it's like, well, you're not going to engage with me, so I'm not going to engage with you. Like you don't even respond to my comments. So I say responding to the audience that you already have, engaging with the audience that you already have, and then also spending time engaging with other accounts, other people that are in your niche, looking at their followers. One thing I used to do, people in my niche or content creators similar to me, I would go look and see who's following them. And then I would go to those people pages and I would like three posts and then comment on one. Like 3 posts, comment on one. So kind of engaging with people who are in the similar realm as me, and kind of poaching their followers, honestly, engaging with their followers, because I know they already like the kind of content that they're posting. Let's see. I think that's it. All right. So quick do's and don'ts. This is to kind of wrap it all up. So make sure you are pitching the right person using those tips and tools that I provided earlier, which you can also find. I think it's on the resource list. I'm not sure. Make sure your pitch is personable. Tie in those stories. Do your research. Make sure you know what the brand is about and see how it can fit in with your brand. Make sure your pitch shows value, because it's all about the value you bring to the table. Add a call to action to every email, telling the person to forward this if it's not the correct person. Determine what works for you. Like I said, some of my opportunities are paid, some are unpaid. It just really depends on what works for me. And that 9-day luxury safari experience in Kenya without being paid, sign me up for it all day. Okay. And also going back to rates really quick, one way that I kind of determine my rates, I set a rate that I like, this is my get out of bed rate. Like I'm not taking on any campaigns that don't start at this amount. And do I make exceptions? Absolutely. Like if it's a brand I really want to work with, or if I'm really like trying to build a relationship with that brand, I will make exceptions. But for me, because we're being transparent about rates and I want more people to start talking about these things, my rates, bare bone minimum, start at $1,200 for Instagram posts and social and stories. Now that's the bare bone. It doesn't include exclusivity. It doesn't include like the terms. Like that's just $1,200 is the bare bone that my rates start at. And so you figure out what that rate is for you. Maybe it's $500. My rates used to start at $150. Like, and I was scared to pitch brands and asking for $150. But you start to see your value, you start to see the work that you're able to bring to the table, and you adjust accordingly. So determine what works for you. Be kind. There are people, like I said, people behind the screen, and you're not entitled to anything. Again, as a person that worked on the brand side of influencer management, people who were genuinely kind used to get so much further. Like I would find budget for these people simply because they were kind. But if you were a jerk, then no, we don't have the budget for you, even if we did. No. Do good work, go above and beyond. So important. That's how a lot of the times the repeat brands that I've been able to work with is because I've done great work in the past, and they come around again and again and say, hey, we have this new campaign. Would you like to be a part of it? So do great work. And at the end of the campaign or the partnership, send over like your stats, send over the screenshots before they have to ask for them, like being proactive in that. And the don'ts, don't send generic pitches. People, they can tell when it's generic. Again, don't feel entitled. Don't make it about you. Don't not follow up. The fortune is definitely in the follow up. If you don't hear something back, I usually follow up a week later. I have, again, a spreadsheet that I keep track of everything. Don't be transactional, be relational, build relationships with these brands. It's all relational. Marketing in itself is all about relationships. So don't be transactional and don't count yourself out. You may have a small following, whatever, but don't count yourself out. There's a brand out there that is more than happy to work with you. And yeah, that's that. I think that is the end of things. I know we're winding down on time. If you like my pitches, I do, just to throw this in really quickly, I have a Pitch Like a Pro ebook. If you are on your computer, you can scan it with your phone. If not, you can go to this link here. It's also in my my Instagram profile, my link in bio. So you can go there. And if you're on this call or BTA members, they get 25% off. There's no deadline on this. So if you can't do it today or any other time, just use the discount code BTA25 off. And this is like a no BS guide. It's not full of fluff. It doesn't have 10 pages of my life story and all the things. It is the actual pitches that I have sent to brands and destinations. And also, if you're more leaning towards travel writing, I have some pitches in there as well that are strictly for publications. So if you're interested, Pitch Like a Pro ebook, it's on my site, link in bio, what have you. And that is it. This is where you can follow my journey, worldofawanderer.com, Instagram, World of a Wanderer, TikTok, not that big on there yet, but World of a Wanderer still, and Pinterest, World of a Wanderer. And if you have any questions, I'm always open. You can shoot me an email. I'm always happy to chat. Send it to Colby@worldofawanderer.com. And so that is time, but let me look and see if we have any other questions over here. Engagement. Robin said, yes, I like and comment on all the travel folks posts. Yes, it's so important. I love that. Robin said was going to ask you what your rate was back when you had 1,500 followers. Yeah, again, it was like $150. That was my rate. And it worked for me back then. It really didn't, because I honestly came out, in the negative. By the time you buy an outfit or props or whatever it is, I came out in the negative. So but it was the experience of getting to work with those brands and building that experience, building those relationships, even if it was just $150, it went towards something. It was helpful. So let's see. Thank you for sharing your rates. You're so welcome. Sometimes it's hard to know where to start out. For sure, it really is. But again, find out what works for you. Do you think brands may not take you serious if your rate is too low? No, I don't think so. Working on the brand side of things, we never not took anyone serious because their rates were too low. If anything, I was fortunate enough to work for an agency where we worked in integrity. So if a content creator came back and their rate was $150, we'd be like, you know what, our budget for this is $500. We'll offer you $500. And there are a lot of brands out there that, if you come in and lowball yourself, they'll come back with with a higher amount. So I don't think brands will not take you serious just because your rate is low. Let's see. If when searching for the correct contact person, if you find multiple that could possibly be it, do you CC them all in the email? I don't. I usually email one person and then follow up with that one person. And if I don't get a response, then I'll email the second person. Now, if it's a time sensitive type of situation, I'll email both people like a few days apart. But I don't just CC everyone on the email, because then a lot of times I feel like nobody's going to respond. If you CC everybody, they're going to wait for somebody else to respond, and then you'll never get a response. This has been absolutely great. Thank you. You're so welcome. So welcome. All right. I think that is it. Do we have any other questions? If you don't have any now, again, you have my email address. You can send over any questions you have. I am always happy to help, always happy to answer. The ebook is on the site, World of a Wanderer on Instagram. Let's see. All right. I think that is it. So we're going to log off now. It's been so great. And I will see y'all around. All right. Let's